national educator.
Hello learner, welcome to our today secondary mathematics revision lesson 7. The areas that we are going to revise in our today lesson are 1. Finding mean, quartile deviation and standard deviation. The second thing that we shall revise is solving matrices. Also, it is important for you to know what you are expected by the end of the lesson. So by the end of the lesson, you should be able to remember how to answer question on statistic, and in particular that finding of mean, quartile deviation and standard deviation. And also you should be able to solve matrices. Now, to be able to achieve those objectives, we have a question here, a sample question 1, that we are going to use to be able to remind ourselves how we answer question on statistics. So let us go through the question. The marks scored by 100 students in a mathematics contest are as shown below. So we take time and study the table. We have in the first row the marks, and they are grouped from 45 to 49, 50 to 54, 55 to 59, up to the last one, 70 to 74. In the second row, we are given how many students scored that interval. For example, in the interval of 45 to 49, there are 10 students who scored that interval of marks. Also the same apply to the rest of the classes, where we have for 70 to 74, there were 8 students who scored in between that interval. Let us proceed and look at the question now. Ask, using an assumed mean of 55, calculate the actual mean mark. Secondly, calculate the standard deviation of the distribution. And lastly, find the quartile deviation of the data. And the data here is the marks of the students. Now, before we revise this question, it is important for you to take note. When we require to determine these values in statistics, there are key formula that must always come, or we must be able to memorize. Some of them are in the mathematical table, and some of them you must be able to memorize them. Again, the mean is nothing but the average of the marks. What is the average mark? The standard deviation measures how the data are spread. If you compare the least performer and the highest performer, what is the deviation? Are they deviating so much or not? Then the same apply to quartile deviation. It measures the spread, how the marks are spreading from each other. Now, for us to be able to solve this question, it is important for us to redraw the table and calculate some values that are going to be key in substituting in the formula. So we have a table here where we still have the same marks, but they have been drawn in the first column. The marks, those students who their performance are listed in the first column, the same we had initially. But there is another thing that we must also be able to determine. That is what we call the midpoint. How do we get the midpoint, learner? If you remember, we usually add the 2 marks in that interval. We call them boundary. For example, in the first class, we have a mark of 45 to 49. So we will add the 2 marks